Greg wants to know, do you have any tips on proper torque wrench use? I just got a new carbon bar and I want to make sure I'm installing it correctly.
With today's ultralight alloy and carbon components, getting the right torque spec is critical to your safety out on the road and trail. Before we start talking about torque wrenches, it's important to understand how torque specs work. Many torque specs printed on components are mistaken by home mechanics as recommended torque specs, when most are actually maximum torque specs. Check your component's user manual to know for sure. It's a good idea to stay 15 to 20% below maximum torque values to avoid damage that can come from over-torquing components. It's good practice to use a carbon assembly paste on the contact surfaces of the part that is being torqued, whether the component is made of carbon fiber or not. This will ensure that the part will stay put without having to use high torque values. An important element that it's often assumed in a manufacturer's torque specification is that the two parts being joined together are made by the same manufacturer. It's always a good idea to keep handlebars and stems from the same manufacturer together for this reason. With that said, sometimes you'll find conflicts in torque specs between two components, even when they're made from the same manufacturer. When this happens, use the lower of the two torque specs for your installation. Keep in mind that bolts should be properly prepped before installation on any component requiring an accurate torque value. Always follow the manufacturer's recommendation on whether grease, thread locker, or a dry installation is required. Adding grease to a bolt that should be installed dry will result in a much higher tension applied to the bolt than the manufacturer intended at a given torque value. If the manufacturer does not specify a specific thread or bolt head prep, install and torque the bolt dry. Now we can turn our attention to torque wrenches. When using a click type torque wrench, hold the wrench handle at a 90-degree angle to ensure that the wrench clicks at the desired torque value. Holding the wrench handle at the wrong angle or at the wrong place on the wrench prevents the wrench from properly indicating when the desired torque level is reached. When you're done using the wrench, reset the clutch mechanism to 0 in order to maintain the wrench's calibration. Be sure to have your wrench recalibrated at the service interval indicated by the manufacturer. This will ensure that your tool is always applying the correct torque indicated.
If you want your question answered on Ask a Mechanic presented by Art Cyclery, send your inquiry to webletters@competitorgroup.com.